Hold your horses. Don't take it to the stupid. What's going on here? Let me first just say hello to you. And I'm happy Jaron, Ennis, and Xander Zayas looks like that fight is going to take place. So let's get that out the way. I am super thrilled about these two guys scrapping. But at the same time, I got to throw a hey, yo, hold your horses. Let's not take it to the stupid. Eddie Hearn got a little Cardi B in him. We could call him Eddie B, a Cardi E, because he making money moves. You see this matchup with Xander Zayas and Jaron Ennis? It doesn't just feel like a big fight. It feels like a calculated business move wrapped inside a high-risk boxing decision. Now, I can sit back and look at this and know that there had to be some big money floating around here. Why in the hell would Top Rank put Xander Zayas in with Jaron Ennis when Zayas just picked up that second strap from Abbas Baru? It doesn't make sense. Looks like Xander Zayas is getting sacrificed. But Xander Zayas can fight, don't get me wrong, but I'm just being honest with you. It just looks like on the surface that a young unified champion in Zayas taking on a dangerous, highly skilled contender, and I'm not even going to say contender, because Ennis was a champion and he's an interim champion at 154. But he is big. Let's just call him a contender for now, right? Why you put Zayas in there with Boots, who's basically a contender at 154, even though we know he's more than that based on what he brings to the ring. And he does hold a version of, like again, the WBA strap, because he has an interim title. But I just don't understand, because I'm peeling the layers back. And the fight starts to look less like a traditional title defense and more like a strategic play driven by money. Because you know when Fast Eddie's in the house, if you don't pay attention to Eddie Hearn, he will run circles around your ass. But when I look at it, it just looks like a strategic Eddie Hearn, typical type play driven by money, promotional alignment, and long-term positioning. I mean, he paid for the titles from Charles Martin to give AJ, I think it was an IBF. Can't remember what title it was, but bottom line is, Charles Martin was paid like $8 million for that fight. Okay? But look at how much money Eddie Hearn made with AJ. So that $8 million really means shit as a drop in the bucket. But I'm thinking Xander Zayas is getting paid some real money to take on Boots Ennis. Now, from a pure risk standpoint, this is a dangerous fight. You know, for both. It's a boxing match, so it's dangerous for both, but it's really more dangerous for Zayas, in my opinion. That's why it just almost doesn't make sense. Just doesn't make sense. You know, he's still young, still building his brand, still in the phase where most champions are carefully matched to grow their profile while holding on to their belts. Typically, a fighter in this position would be facing opponents that elevate visibility without drastically threatening their reign. But Ennis is not that kind of opponent. Ennis is viewed by many as a future superstar, arguably already operating at an elite level. And stylistically, he represents real problems for anybody. So the question becomes, why would Top Rank willingly put Zayas, a newly crowned unified champion, in a fight where he could realistically lose everything and more than likely is going to do that? But when you ask that question, you can't help but circle back to, hey, yo, hold your horses. Pretty damn simple. It's money. Wu-Tang cream, cha-ching-ching, dollar bill, y'all. Even though the purses haven't been officially reported, the magnitude of this fight suggests a significant financial incentive. Big fights create big paydays. And when you bring together a rising Puerto Rican star with a highly touted American talent like Ennis, you're tapping into multiple markets at once. New York becomes a perfect stage. Puerto Rican's going to show up 100%. Ennis brings his own growing fan base from right across the road from Philly. And that kind of crossover appeal generates revenue that's smaller safer fights simply cannot match. So from a business standpoint, this may be a case of Top Rank deciding that the immediate financial upside outweighs the long-term risk. So it comes back to that money. That's where the narrative of Zayas selling his belts comes into play. It's not necessarily that he's intentionally giving them up, but we as fans interpret this type of matchup as a scenario where a champion is being put in front of someone who is heavily favored or seen as the next guy up. In boxing history, we've seen this before. Fighters being positioned in high-risk fights that serve a bigger promotional agenda. So if Ennis wins, he instantly becomes a unified champion and a much bigger star. If Zayas wins, he legitimizes himself in a massive way, in a massive payday. But the underlying feeling among some fans is that Ennis is the one being positioned to take over. Like, that's no secret. A blind man can see that. Another major factor is the collapse of that Josh Kelly-Zayas talks. That shit went out the window. That shit went adios. That fight made sense stylistically and promotional-wise at one point, but you saw how quick that shit fell apart, didn't you? The landscape shifted. Ortiz couldn't fight Ennis. Him and his De La Hoya, the Golden Boy drama. So it's like, okay, Ennis and Josh Kelly. Eddie Hearn said negative. Both of these guys fight for Matchroom. I'm not going to put them against each other. We'll figure out what we're going to do with Kelly. But Ennis, we're going to take him towards Zayas. We're not going to do the Kelly-Zayas fight. And that's what ended up happening. I'm trying to think, man. Who would have won with Kelly and Zayas? But I don't know. Guess it really doesn't matter, right? But I think Eddie Hearn may be waiting to line Kelly up with the winner of Fundora and Thurman. So the bottom line is he's hoping Kelly can beat one of those guys. Ennis beats Zayas. Then maybe he has an all Matchroom undisputed showdown with Kelly and Boots for the 154-pound undisputed crown. But again, these are long-term plans, and that's where Eddie Hearn comes into question. And Eddie Hearn needs to always be included in the equation because shit doesn't add up unless you got Eddie Hearn in there in the equation, right? You got to understand Eddie Hearn's vision. I personally think with Eddie Hearn and his vision, it involves positioning Ennis for something even bigger down the line. If Ennis can secure more belts, especially by beating someone like Zayas, he becomes a centerpiece for a major unification fight. A potential clash between Ennis and Kelly down the road will become a massive event with multiple titles on the line and a much bigger commercial ceiling. And that fight will more than likely take place in the UK because they know they can sell out the biggest venues and they can make money hand over fist. So from that perspective, this Zayas fight, it's not just about present. It's about building toward a future mega fight that generates even more revenue and attention. This is where boxing politics and strategy start to intertwine. Because even if they don't do that, Ennis with 2 belts could bait Jermell Charlo into a fight. You could bait a lot of people into a fight with 2 belts. So again, still talking big money against other big name opponents. So it all across the board is a win-win for Ennis, win-win for Kelly, win-win for Eddie Hearn, as long as the fighters continue to win. Now, boxing politics and strategy is nice to see when it intertwines successfully. But I'm going to say this, Top Rank and Matchroom don't always operate in alignment. But when you see them two come together, you better believe the money's right. And if the money's right, people are going to show up every night. And timing makes sense. Deals can be made that benefit both sides. For Top Rank, putting Zayas in this fight gives him a shot at a major event and the possibility of creating a star if he wins. For Matchroom, it gives Ennis the opportunity to collect belts and move closer to becoming a unified or even undisputed champion. It's a high-stakes gamble on both ends, but one that could pay off massively depending on the outcome. There's also the reality that boxing is shifting. Fans are demanding better fights sooner. old model of slowly building fighters over many years are starting to lose favor, especially in divisions that are wide open like 154 pounds. By making a fight like this now, promoters can capture attention, generate buzz, and position their fighters at the forefront of the division much faster. So it's risky, but it's also necessary in today's landscape where attention spans are short and competition for viewers is super high, especially with so much going on out here. The Zone has boxing locked right now. The Zone has shit locked down, and Zuffa's doing his thing. But everybody, all these big promoters have deals with the Zone. But competition for viewers is high, so you got to put on good matches. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, this fight may be happening because it checks every important box: money, marketability, the timing, future potential. So yeah, it's dangerous for Zayas, but it's also a big opportunity for Ennis and bigger fights down the line. But I think Zayas, man, is getting sacrificed. It's just my opinion. You know what I'm saying? But he's gonna fight. But I'm curious to find out how much money he's making. It just doesn't make sense when you have Top Rank deciding to work with Matchroom. Like, there's got to be some serious money on the line to get these two promotional factions who are normally at each other's necks to take two of the biggest stars and put them in a ring together. You better believe there's some real dough being exchanged here. And that's why beneath all the business decisions, all the promotional strategy, all the speculation, I think there's still one undeniable truth. That when the bell rings, none of this is going to really matter. But for these fighters, especially Zayas and his team, it's nice to know they're getting paid huge money. So is the reward worth the risk? I think it is. Because if he loses, he makes the kind of money he probably never dreamt of. If he wins, he gets the money and he gets the big name on his record as the guy who's supposed to be the next big thing in boxing. And he gets that scalp that he can go home and mount, put it in his office. So this just may come down to who's better, who's ready, who can seize the moment. And if you ask 100 fans, 99 of them are going to tell you it's Jaron Ennis. Anyway, Xander Zayas being sacrificed. I had to expose it. Keep cool, I'm in the breeze.